So today our topics are going to be wars and battles in ancient, medieval, and modern India. You must know there are hundreds of wars. If you ask me, there are thousands of wars which were fought. Thousands of wars could have been fought. But sir, can we remember all the wars and battles? Is it necessary for us to remember all the battles and wars? Not necessary. What are the purposes for which the wars and battles were fought? What are the purposes? Right? Normally, you think that wars were fought for land. Land. Wars were fought for territory. That is what is called land, I told you. Sometimes wars were fought for gold. For example, during the time of Alauddin Khilji, all his wars, when he came to southern part of India, they are what for? They are not for the possession of the land, because he knows that the possession of the land is not possible. He cannot control from the Delhi. So during the time of Alauddin Khilji, those land, the wars were fought not for land, but the wars were fought for what purpose? They were fought for wealth, the purpose of wealth, right? And sometimes, rarely, we have seen in history, wars were also fought for, let us say, women. Okay, you refer. I have not put this war into this today's class discussion. There is a war which is fought in the Bhamini Empire. Bhamini Empire. The name of the war is War of Goldsmith's Daughter. War of Goldsmith's Daughter. Somebody find it out. Tomorrow, either in the group you post what is the war, 3 points you posted in the group, when the war was fought, why the war was fought, and War of Goldsmith. Okay, Goldsmith's Daughter, something like this, the name is there, right? you can just do that also. You can take it as an assignment or something, just to raise your curiosity that I have given. Most of the times wars were fought for women. I told you, I think Chittur, conquest of Chittur, during the time of Alauddin Khilji. There is a movie I think we should have seen. The name of the movie is what? Alauddin Khilji, I think. I do not know. Alauddin Khilji, right? So he invades Chittur. Okay, but I do not know how far that is true. No ruler is dumb or stupid enough to just fight a war, sacrifice his soldiers for the cause of just one woman. I don't think so. But there will be some rulers who are stupid enough to do that also. Anyhow, in history, so many times wars are fought. But surprisingly, the first war which I will show you today, which I just will discuss, is not fought for any of these three reasons. It's not fought for any of these. What are the reasons I told you? I told you land, territory, gold, I told you. Thirdly, I told you women. The first war which we discussed, which I'm going to put in the slides also. Okay, that war in the ancient India was fought. Shall we go to the screen share, people? Before I go to the screen share, please don't you bother. When I'm for the first time, you may be seeing the names of some of the wars. Don't worry. Don't worry. Allow your mind to be recorded by me. You just listen. Just allow yourself, whatever I'm telling, you just listen. Okay? You just accept. You think in your mind that yeah, you can remember this. Okay, I'm not going to give you thousands of data. Simple wars and battles I'm going to tell you. One line, two line we will discuss. That's it. Your mind has got the capacity to observe everything. Right? So don't you bother about these data which I'm going to share you. Whatever data I'm going to share you, don't you worry. Allow your mind to be open. Allow your mind to be open and just allow whatever I'm speaking to be registered in your head. You understand this? Don't you say, sir, this names, the terms which you are putting is difficult for me. No, don't allow any prejudice to come to you when you are learning. Just you allow whatever data I'm showing you, just you receive. Okay? In the data also, some points only I will highlight, some things I will not highlight also. Nothing to worry. Whatever is recorded, you record in your mind. Plus the PDF which I'm discussing this sheet. The PDF yesterday, 2 or 3 people they asked me, sir, can you share the sheet? I can share the sheet, but I will share it in the group. The group is created, I think you all know. Today I will share all the pending classes, whatever 3-4 classes I will share. Yesterday I shared it to 1 or 2 people individually. Those people who asked, today I will share it in the group. I will put it in the group. Right? That's what it is. So I told you the wars were fought for what? Wars were fought for territory. Wars were fought for gold. Wars were fought for, right? Wars were fought for women. The first war, we'll go to the screen share now. Right. We'll continue. See, the first battle which we're discussing is the Battle of 10 Kings. Dasaranjana Yuddha. It is given in the NCERT books in the ancient India. Dasaranjana. Dasa means 10, Raja means kings. 10 kings is called the Battle of 10 Kings. This battle is mentioned in the Rig Veda. This battle is mentioned in the Rig Veda. As you all know, I told you the battle is fought for the three purposes. This battle is not fought for any of these purposes. I think the battle is fought for the purpose of cattle lifting. There is something which is called cattle. In the ancient India, during the time of Rig Veda, right, the battle is fought for what? The battle is fought for cattle. So here, I think the Battle of 10 Kings were fought for one of the purposes of the cattle lifting. Who are the parties? Battle of approximately 1500 BC. The exact date is not known to us. So roughly we have given 1500 BC, right? The Battle of 10 Kings. The Battle of 10 Kings are fought between kingdoms of Bharata. There is a kingdoms of Bharata versus Sudas. Bharata also, that is Sudas. So whatever I have marked in the bold, that means he has won the battle. He has won the battle. So in the Battle of 10 Kings, Bharatas were defeated with Sudas. You must know Sudas. Okay, where is the location? Whatever point you are supposed to know, only that I have given. So the river is River Ravi. In the ancient India, Parasuni is the name of the River Ravi. Ancient India, River Ravi is called as Parasuni. Remember this? In one of the preliminary questions they have asked, Parasuni is indicative of which river they have asked. In the UPSC preliminary itself they asked Parasuni. Okay. So Parasuni, remember this name Parasuni. It is River Ravi. Battle of 10 Kings associated in Vedic times. Bharatas versus 10 other tribes. Sudas. Remember this Sudas. Sudas won. Right. Second. The second battle is Battle of Hadepsis. Battle of Hadepsis. So this battle is fought between Alexander versus Porus. Alexander versus Porus. Alexander, you all know, the ruler from Macedonia. He came to India. He came to conquer the whole of the world. He conquered Greece. He conquered Macedonia and all other adjoining regions. He conquered Afghanistan. He conquered Persia. Then Afghanistan. He crossed the Hindu Kush mountains. After crossing the Hindu Kush mountains, he crossed the Indus River. He crossed the Indus River. There, he met the Indian ruler. Right? There is a ruler who is called Ampi, or simply called Ompus, O-M-P-U-S, or Ampi, A-M-P-I-E. That Ampi ruler, without fighting, he surrendered to Alexander. So Alexander thought that maybe the next ruler in India is going to surrender to him. The next ruler happens to be Porus. Okay, in ancient Indian, the name it is given in different way. Let us go just Porus. You remember Porus, right? He fought a war. The name of the war is called Battle of Hadepsis. The name of the battle is Hadepsis. Alexander versus Porus. In this battle, Alexander won. Near river, which river is that? Jhelum River. Jhelum. Right? Remember this data. Then what happened after Alexander's victory? Of course, he handed over the territory to Porus. He returned back. Then finally, he died on the way in a place which is called Baghdad, near Baghdad. He died. Okay, Alexander. Let's not go deep into that story. Okay, so Battle of Hadepsis means Alexander versus Porus. This battle is very important because this is the first battle where Alexander's army, though it is the Alexander's army, though they have defeated many rulers before, this is the first time they had a tough match with a ruler who is called Porus. First time these armies have seen elephants being brought into the warfare and fought. First time Alexander had a very tough fight in the battlefield. Battle of Hadepsis. Next, the name of the battle is not known to us. The name of the battle is not known to us. But in history, it is said that Chandragupta Maurya fought this war with Seleucus Nicator. Seleucus Nicator is the general appointed when Alexander left India. The territories of the northwestern part of India were given to this general who is called Seleucus Nicator, who administered on behalf of Alexander and his people. Right? Seleucus Nicator. So after Alexander's death, Alexander died in 326 itself. 325 he died, just 1 year afterwards. Then his territories, which were controlled by Seleucus Nicator in the northwestern part of India, when Chandragupta Maurya became the emperor, then Chandragupta Maurya fought this war with Seleucus Nicator. We do not know where the war was fought. But we know for certain that a war was fought. In this war, Chandragupta Maurya seems to have emerged victorious. The result of the war is also not mentioned in any place in history. But sufficient to know that In this war, it is mentioned that Chandragupta Maurya gained territory. He gained territory. The names of the territory were given in your NCERT books. Simply the present day Afghanistan, the present day Pakistan, the present day Balochistan. Balochistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan. All these territories were gained by Chandragupta Maurya after this battle. It is given. Not only that, Chandragupta Maurya also married a daughter of Seleucus Nicator. It is given. So definitely we come to a conclusion that Chandragupta Maurya could have won this war. That is how we come to the conclusion he won this war. Okay, nowhere it is given war. What is the name of the war? War. See, nobody gives the names of the war for information. Nobody gives. Nobody says that the Battle of Panipat will be fought as Battle of Panipat. Do you know that when Babur and other people they fought the Battle of Panipat, did they say tomorrow we are going to fight in a place which is called Panipat? The name of the battle is going to be Panipat in history like this. Did they record anything? No. Wherever the battle was fought, the name is given, the place name is given to the battle. Sometimes the name of the river is given to the battle. Sometimes some other significant things will be given. Normally, the name of the place is given to the battle. The name of the place is also given to the treaty. You can remember in the world history, there is a treaty called Treaty of Versailles, 1919. You all know there is a treaty which is called Treaty of Versailles, 1919. That means what? The treaty was signed in Versailles. Treaty of Paris. Today we will see the Treaty of Paris. That means the treaty was signed in Paris. Right? Treaty of Madras, Treaty of Srirangapattinam, Treaty of Mangalore, all associated with the Anglo-Mysore War. So the treaty's name, the name of the war, they were based on the place where the incident happened. Normally. But here we do not know the third case. So let us go to the next four. Okay, Battle of Pulalur 1618. 1618. See here, during this time, this ruler who is called King Pulikesi II, very important Chalukya ruler, Pulikesi, he ruled in the central part of India, Pulikesi. Right. This Pulikesi seems to have fought war both in north and south. You please remember this. In the north, during this time, we have a ruler who is called Harshavardhana. Harshavardhana, contemporary of Pulikesi. In the south, we have a ruler who is called Mahendra Varma Pallava. Mahendra Varma I. Mahendra Varma Pallava. So this Pulikesi fought war with Harshavardhana in the north. He fought war with Mahendra Varma in the south also. So Pulikesi, his achievements were written in an inscription. The name of the inscription is called Aihole inscription. I hope you all know. Aihole. A-I-H-O-L-E. Aihole inscription. Aihole inscription is written by a person who is called Ravi Kirti. R-A-V-I-K-I-R-T-I. Ravi Kirti. Aihole inscription. Aihole is a place. Right? Name of the place. So Pulikesi is what to say? Pulikesi, he won the war. This is second Pulikesi. Right? You understand this? So the Pulikesi won a war with Mahendra Varma Pallava in Pulalur, a place which is near Kanjipuram, you must know. And he took the title also Pulikesi II, which is called Kanchi Kondan. After this battle, he took the title which is called Kanji Kondan. Later, just addition to this data also, Mahendra Varma's son, his name happens to be Narasimha Varma. Mahendra Varma's son, whose name happened to be Narasimha Varma Pallava. Narasimha Varma Pallava later in the year 642, around 642, he defeated Pulikesi and took the title Vatapi Kondan. Vatapi Kondan. Vatapi means Badami. B-A-D-A-M-I. Present day Badami is called Vatapi in history. Vatapi Kondan means the person who defeated Vatapi in 640s. Let us not go deep into any war. This will be sufficient. So, a war is fought between Pulikesi II, Mahendra Varma, Pulalur, you remember this, and the data which I told you about the contemporary of Pulikesi, remember all this. Next, Battle of Takkolam. These three battles, Takkolam, Koppam, Koodal, Sangamam. These three battles are associated with the Chola rulers. Cholas. This one battle is associated with the Pallavas. This is these three. Takkolam, Kuppam, Koodal, Sangamam. So remember TKK. I remember this like this TKK. So is Takkolam is there, no? TKK. So Takkolam, Kuppam, Koodal, Sangamam. Koodal, Sangamam. You remember like this three wars. The first war 949. Okay, CE means just 949 AD. There's no need to put CE also, but they have given. Okay, 949 AD. In this war, actually, Rajaditya, the elder son of Parantaka I, is a ruler by this time. Parantaka is a ruler, a very important Chola ruler who ruled for a very long period of time. Parantaka's time only you have another important information which I will give you, which is called the Kudavolai Murai inscription. We got this Kudavolai Murai inscription, right, which speaks about the local self-government. Local self-government. That inscription belongs to this period only, Parantaka I. Parantaka one. Are you understanding this? So Parantaka one's time, we know about this local self-government, right? And his son Rajaditya, he was defeated in the. I mean, he died in the battlefield. Actually, he died in the battlefield, but the victory went to the Cholas, no doubt. The Cholas won the war. The Cholas, they won, right? So Parantaka actually, the Parantaka, he won the war, right? So it is Takolam, and who is the ruler? Rashtrakuta King Krishna III. Remember his name Krishna III. Who are these Krishna? Rashtrakuta rulers. Do you remember this Kailash temple at Ellora? Kailash temple at Ellora. Monolithic rock cut. Who built this? Krishna III or Krishna I or Krishna II?
Krishna 1.
Are you sure about that?
Krishna
Tell
1.
already after the conclusion of the class we lost. Okay, in the conclusion of the class, somebody you think and tell. Okay. Kailash temple Ellora is built during the time of Rashtrakutas. They are very important rulers, Rashtrakutas, in the central part of India. Right? Anyhow. So that is Takola. Next is Koppam. Again, Rajadiraja Chola and Rajendra Chola, they combined together and fought with the Chalukya ruler, Chalukya king Someshwara. Someshwara. Here also the Cholas they won. The Cholas they won. Okay, remember this Cholas? They won the day. But that battle is just 1052. Okay, they fought with Chalukya rulers. Just you remember that. Next, Battle of Kudal Sangamam. Battle of Kudal Sangamam. Okay, Chola king again. Rajendra Chola II and the Western Chalukya king Someshwara won. They fought the battle in the Kudal Sangamam. Here also the Cholas won the day. Cholas won the day. So Takolam, Koppam, Kudal Sangamam. I tell you to remember this order because I remember once it is asked in the preliminary the sequentiation of this war, not for the general studies history, but for the optional history paper long time back we had preliminary. So since these battles are important, they asked in the order. Which is the order? Remember this order. Right. Let us go to the medieval part, medieval India. Right. Battle of Tarain. So that is the first important battle. I hope you all know. Battle of Tarain. First battle of Tarain, 1191. Who are the rulers in the battle? We all know Muhammad Ghori is one ruler. Another is Prithviraj Chauhan. Muhammad Ghori is actually a person who comes from a place which is called Ghor. Ghor is a place which is in the present day, let us say Iran, Afghanistan border, we have a place which is called Ghor. He comes to a place which is called Ghor, so he is called as Ghori. Right. So Prithviraj Chauhan is a ruler in Ajmer. He was a ruler of Ajmer, a Rajput ruler. So the war started in 1191. First battle of Tarain. Prithviraj Chauhan emerged victorious. Ghori was defeated. Next, Ghori went to his house, prepared for the next war. So next year he came, which is called the second battle of Tarain. Same place. Tarain is a place in Haryana. That's why I have given in the bracket Haryana. Right? In Haryana. So in the second battle, Prithviraj Chauhan was defeated by Muhammad Ghori. So the second battle of Tarain is a very, very important battle because after this battle only, the Turks, they had a foothold in India. Foothold. Even 100 years before this incident, around 1000 itself, we have Ghazni entering into India. But the point is, Ghazni never wanted to occupy the territory. He was not interested in territorial possessions. He was interested in loot and plunder. So he could not establish his kingdom here. But Ghori is the first person, and the success of Battle of Tarain, second Battle of Tarain, is the root cause for the establishment of Delhi Sultanate or a foreign rule in India. Right? So remember this second Battle of Tarain, 1192. So remember this data. First Battle of Tarain, first means first, 1191. 1 means 1. Remember this. Second means 2 should come. So first Battle of Tarain, 1191. Second Battle of Tarain, 1192. I think you remember this very clearly. Don't get any confusion. Next, we'll go to the first Battle of Panipat. Right. Forget about the month, date, and all. Forget. Just remember the year only. You remember. Right. Mostly for information, I am giving this month. You can remember this month also if you want, but not necessary. Normally, the war will be fought in the month of January, or the war will be fought in the month of June in India. Normally, that's what I have remembered. Because it is either summer or it is either winter. The war would not be fought in the monsoon season. Monsoon is what in India? June, July, August, September, October. Up to that, it will be monsoon. It will not be fought normally, war. So remember that also in the mind. But moreover, don't bother about this 21st April and all. 1526 is the first battle of Panipat. Sir, who are the parties? Babur. Babur was the ruler by this time in Kabul. He entered into India. He fights with Ibrahim Lodi, who happens to be the Indian ruler. He is the last ruler of the Lodi dynasty. Last ruler of the Lodi dynasty. Sir, who are the Lodi rulers? Balol Lodi, Sikandar Lodi, Ibrahim Lodi. The three rulers. Balol Lodi. You want me to type somewhere? Okay. Balol Lodi. Next is Sikandar Lodi. Next is Ibrahim Lodi. These are the three, right? Balol, Sikandar, and Ibrahim Lodi. Right? These three. The last ruler by this time he happens to be Ibrahim Lodi. He became the last ruler because Babur killed him. Anyhow. Okay. So Balol Lodi, Sikandar Lodi, Ibrahim Lodi. These are the orders you must remember. So in this battle, which was fought in a place which is called Panipat, this battle is also a very significant battle, Panipat battle. Because it is this battle which gave Babur a foothold in India. How this battle of Tarain is important, which gave a foothold to the Delhi Sultanate. The first battle of Panipat is important because it gave a foothold to the Mughals in India. Now after this battle only, means Babur decided to stay in India, and of course he decided to rule India from then on. Immediately after this battle, Babur could not sit tight. Okay, because he had another people to fight. There is a ruler who is called a Rajput ruler. The name of the person is Rana Sanga. Rana Sanga. When Babur was fighting this battle of Panipat, Rana Sanga gave a pledge to Babur that he will support Babur. He will attack Ibrahim Lodi, thereby saving some efforts of Babur. But Rana Sanga did not. Why Rana Sanga did all this is a historical point. We don't have time to discuss all this now. But Rana Sanga gave a commitment that he is going to help Babur, but he did not do that. Babur clearly knows that after sitting in the throne in Delhi, the next target is going to be Rana Sanga. So Babur went to fight with Rana Sanga in a place which is called Khanwa. Khanwa is a place between Delhi to Rajasthan, a place which is called Khanwa. In this battle, Rana Sanga was defeated by Babur. Year 1527, next year. 1526 is had, 1527 the next year. You remember this. Battle of Khanwa. Right? What happened to Rana Sanga? Did he die? No. He was wounded. So many wounds in his body, he escaped. Later, Rana Sanga was killed by his own ministers. Later, we call Rana Sanga a great ruler. Rana Pratap, his successor, Rana Pratap, we have during the time of Akbar, the same dynasty. Rana Sanga, Rana Pratap, we have different rulers, Rana Amar Singh. Okay, but this Rana Sanga was killed by his own ministers for whatever political reasons it is. So he died later. So this battle of Khanwa is a very important battle. But please remember, after this battle of Khanwa also, Babur is not free. Because Babur has to fight with another battle. The battle is now with the Muslims. The Muslims means the descendants of the Afghan dynasty. We all know these Lodis happen to be Afghan dynasty. Can you see me, Krishna? The pointer there is.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So Babur, this Ibrahim Lodi, the Lodis were the Afghan dynasty. You must know. They were the Afghan dynasty. They are the first Afghan dynasties in India. Ruling dynasty in India is the Lodis. So the Afghans grouped themselves again to fight with Babur. Here you can see the Lodi, Mahmud Lodi. There is a person, right? So the Afghans with all other remaining people, they joined together. They wanted to give a tough fight to Babur. The name of the battle is called Battle of Ghagra. Battle of Ghagra. Again, in this battle, Babur defeated the combined forces of all these resistance elements. So Babur was at peace. So Babur firmly established his kingdom after these three important battles: Panipat, Khanwa, Ghagra. Panipat, Khanwa, Ghagra. Remember these three battles of Babur. Next, his son Humayun sat in the throne. His son Humayun sat. Yeah, any somebody? Yeah.
Yes, sir. The Ghagra was 1529 in sir.
Pullapa?
I think. Battle of Ghagra, 1529 in year.
Papa, put a question mark. We'll just take it up.
Okay, sir.
Right? Battle of Chausa. See, Humayun, when he sat in the throne, his son Humayun sat in the throne. In 1530, he dies. Babur dies in 1530. So, after the death of Babur, his son Humayun sits in the throne. And Humayun has to fight so many battles. We are not going to discuss all the battles. But there is one important battle which he fought, which is called Battle of Chausa. There is another battle also which he fought. I will write it somehow here. Okay? Battle of Chausa. And there is a battle which is called Battle of Bilgram. Battle of Bilgram or Battle of Kannauj, we can say. Okay, this is 1540. Right? So sometimes even in Places some notes are missing, right? Anyhow, let it go. So Battle of Chausa. Says this Battle of Chausa, Humayun fights this battle with Sher Shah. Humayun is actually chasing Sher Shah and going to Bengal to defeat him. But on the way, Humayun gets trapped and Sher Shah surrounds Humayun in a place which is called Chausa. It is just a bend of a river, okay? A bend of a river which is Ganga River, okay? Ganges River. So he surrounds him and defeats Humayun. Humayun escapes. But Sher Shah is not allowing Humayun to escape also. The next battle, Battle of Dulgram, is again between Sher Shah and Humayun also. In this battle also, Sher Shah wins. And this is the last battle of Humayun in India. After this Battle of Dulgram, Humayun has to leave India and he escapes. He leaves India and goes forever outside. Then later he comes, after a long time he comes. Right? Just before this battle of Panipat, 1555, he returns back to India. Humayun returns back to India in 1555, again reoccupies Delhi, sits in the throne of Delhi. That he did. Anyhow, second battle of Panipat. Please remember, a lot of people confuse the second battle of Panipat by saying that Humayun fought this battle. No, Humayun did not fight this battle. Humayun had already died when the battle was fought. Humayun dies in the year 1555. I think in the early year 1556 itself he dies. While he's descending from this Sher Shah's palace, they have built a library. From the library, when Humayun was descending one evening after a prayer, he fell down. Historians are writing he stumbled, fell down and entered into a coma and died after 40 days, whatever it is. Okay, Sher Mahal, it is a library which is there in the old fort in Delhi, Purana Killa. The old fort in Delhi is called Purana Killa. In that Purana Killa, we have the Sher Mahal. He died there. Let us not go deep into that. So after the death of Humayun, again the whole Afghan resistance rise under the head of Hemu. Hemu is actually a Muslim. Hemu is actually a salt seller. A salt seller turned into a soldier who became a general. That is the story of Hemu. But Hemu is leading the Muslim army. That is the point here. Hemu is leading the Muslim army. The Muslim army, all the Afghan forces, the resistance forces, they all joined together. They occupied Agra, they occupied Delhi. So the Mughal Empire lost Delhi and Agra for the second time. First time Humayun left India, he lost. Second time Humayun came and reoccupied in 1555. Again they lost it. Then after losing everything, Akbar was confronted in a place which is called Panipat. The battle was not so directly fought by Akbar, because Akbar was the ruler. Of course, Akbar, after the death of Humayun, Akbar was coronated as a Mughal emperor. But the battle was not fought by him. The battle was fought by Bairam Khan. Okay, one of the Akbar's Adla Baba, or Akbar's foster father, or of Humayun's very close friend, is called Bairam Khan. He actually controlled the administration for quite some time. So this battle really was fought between Bairam Khan and Hemu, and Hemu was defeated. Akbar side won. So the second battle of Panipat is very significant. Next, we'll go to the another important battle in history, which is called Battle of Talik Kota. Very, very important battle, Battle of Talik Kota. This is the battle which put an end to the Vijayanagar Empire. The Battle of Talik Kota put an end to the Vijayanagar Empire. So the Vijayanagar Empire, we all know, had different dynasties. Sangama, Saluva, Tuluva, Aravidu dynasty. Sangama, Saluva, Tuluva, Aravidu dynasty. I hope you all know this. The last ruler, the name of the person is called Ramaraya. The last ruler, and Sadasivaraya. These are the two people who are present there during this time, and these people never bothered much about the administration. So the Deccan states, we have 5 states. We have Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Golconda, Bedar. There is another place which is called Berar. Berar was not a part of this alliance, so I am not mentioning Berar here. All the 5 Bahmani states, the Bahmani Empire descended into 5. So please, you understand what I am telling people? So Vijayanagar, Bahmani, 2 states were created during the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq. 1336 Vijayanagar Empire was born. 1347 Bahmani Empire was born. Bahmani Empire broke in the year 1482 into 5 kingdoms. 1482 it broke into 5 kingdoms. Ahmednagar, Bijapur, Bedar, Golconda, Berar. Constantly these Muslim states, they fought among themselves due to the conspiracy of the Hindu state which is called Vijayanagar. At one point of time, all the Muslim states decided to join together and attack Vijayanagar Empire. All they joined together and attacked Vijayanagar Empire. You understand this? So, in this battle, which is called Battle of Talik Kota, in the year 1565, all the states joined together and they defeated Vijayanagar Empire. Okay, if we go to Hampi today, I went to Hampi very recently, just 3 months back. I mean, in the month of January, I went to Hampi. Okay, which happened to be capital of Vijayanagar. All the temples were destroyed. All the temples. Okay, all the temples were destroyed by this Vijayanagar. I mean, by the Bahmani state, they broke every temple. All beautiful temples they have been broken. Okay, except one temple, they have not touched one temple. There is a funny reason for that. We'll discuss this some other time. Okay, only one temple they have not. Okay, broken. Okay, anyhow, let it go. So here, this important battle of Talikota, remember this 1565. Battle of Haldighat, another important battle. So this is a battle where a Rajput is fighting against the Rajput. One Rajput is Man Singh, who commanded Akbar's army. This is Akbar's Rajput policy. Akbar's army. Are you understanding that? And the Rajput who is fighting is Maharana Pratap. Rana Pratap. Okay, Maharana, you forgot Maha. Simply Rana Pratap, RP, you remember this. As Rana Pratap is the Mewar ruler. The same. Previously we had a ruler, no? Where is this dog? Khanwa. Okay, Rana Sanga's descendant. Rana Sanga is also ruler of Mewar, only for information. He was the ruler of Mewar. The same descendants, they fight this Rana Pratap. And in this battle, Man Singh defeats Rana Pratap. Okay, so Akbar is using the Rajput as the sword arm of the Mughal Empire. Sword arm of the Mughal Empire. Next, right? Next we'll go to another battle. Battle of Karnal. Now we enter into modern India. Modern India battles are all known to you. I do not have to go very slow. You people know about modern Indian battles. Is it not? Battle of Karnal. What is this Battle of Karnal? Nadir Shah is coming and fighting with Muhammad Shah Rangila, Mughal Emperor. Nadir Shah's invasion in India is called as Battle of Karnal. Year 1739, and there is no treaty. Nadir Shah took everything the Mughal Emperor had, including Kohinoor diamond he took. I explained all this in the class. So the story part is not there. Battle of Karnal, remember. Next, first Carnatic War. Now Carnatic battles. 3 Carnatic wars we have to see. Carnatic War, just only one line outline I will tell you. They were fought between what? In the Carnatic region, between the rulers of the Carnatic. Carnatic region is northern part of Madras. Is the Carnatic region. Sir, who are the rulers here? Arcot Nawab will have Arcot. Is it not? Rulers of Hyderabad, they also have an interference in this Arcot Nawab, because Arcot Nawab were under the control of Hyderabad Nizam. So they also would be somehow connected to this war. British were present here in this region, where St. George Fort they have built in Chennai. French were present here, where Pondicherry they were staying here. So all these people, they would somehow form a party into this Carnatic Wars. So the Carnatic Wars essentially were otherwise called as Anglo-French Wars. Anglo-French Wars. British and the France, they were fighting. In between the Carnatic rulers, they were involved into this war. So what are the years of the first Carnatic War? 1746-48. Carnatic War. Sir, why the Carnatic War started? In Europe there is a war. In Europe there is a war. Okay. So some of the Carnatic wars have an impact in Europe, spilled over to here. So in Europe also, Britain and France they fought. Right. In English and the French forces in India they fought. French forces, East Indian Company and the French company they fought. Okay, what is the result of this war? It is inconclusive, because neither side won, neither side lost. But this Carnatic War was concluded by a treaty which is called Treaty of Oxila-Chapa. This treaty was signed not here. Oxila-Chapa is in Europe. The treaty was signed there. So Oxila-Chapa, Britain and France they entered, right? They entered into an agreement and they concluded the war. The war started because of the Austrian War of Succession. There in the year 1745, Austrian War of Succession started. So Britain and France they took countering arguments. In India also it spilled over. But here also the Arcot Nawab, Nizam, they got involved in the place. But what is very important in this first Carnatic War is there is a battle, small battle. War is inclusion of many battles. War means many battles together, we call it as a war. 46 to 48 means it is a war. 46, one particular date, it is a battle. Battle of Plassey means 1 day battle. Battle of Adayar, battle 1 day. Right? Battle of Buxar, 1 day. First World War, 5 years war. You understand this, people? Anybody? You are all alive or dead? People, anybody is there or we are?
Yes,
Have
sir.
exist?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You're all, because I could not see you when I'm running the slides, I could not see you. Okay. So I do not know whether you are present or absent. So the point is, Battle of Adayar is fought in the course of the first Carnatic War. Battle of Adayar. This Battle of Adayar is fought between French forces and Nawab of Arcot. Nawab of Arcot. Who is the Nawab? Anwaruddin was the Nawab. Anwaruddin. French forces commanded by Captain Paradis. Paradis. Paradise. This is a very, very important war in history. Please remember this Battle of Adayar. I have to mark it, bold it, I think. Okay. Though I have not given some points. Okay. Battle of Adayar. French forces, around 230 French forces were there under Captain Paradis. Anwaruddin was the ruler of Arcot, but he sent his general. The name of the general is Mahfuz Khan. M-A-H-F-U-Z. Mahfuz Khan, who commanded a force of around 10,000 soldiers. But you know, 230 soldiers defeated these 10,000 soldiers. That's the history. So exactly not 230. 230 French soldiers, around 700 Indian recruits are taking part with the French. So 230 plus 700 is less than 1,000. So this less than 1,000 soldiers defeated 10 times their number. Okay. So that is a very important, sir. How it happened, why it happened, this all historical debate in the historical discussion. We have no time to discuss about that. The Battle of Adayar is the first battle where it proved that a small disciplined contingent of an European force could defeat a very big indisciplined Indian force. A small disciplined contingent of a European force could defeat a large indisciplined contingent of an Indian force. That is a lesson it was taught in the Battle of Adayar. Next we will go 20. Second Carnatic War, 49 to 54. Again, the Carnatic War was started here because the Nizam, we have a Nizam who died. Nizamul Mulk, that person, I hope you all know, the founder of the Hyderabad, he died. Then he has his son and grandson fighting for who would become British and French. They took one side. Nothing to know much about this war. 49 to 54. The war was concluded by the Treaty of Pondicherry. Simply understand this Treaty of Pondicherry. Okay, Treaty of Pondicherry. Sir, here also the war between the British and French, it remained inconclusive only. Largely, it remained inconclusive. But British had a slight upper hand. British had a slight upper hand over that. Right? Anyhow, before we go to the third Carnatic War, in between the second and third Carnatic War, another important development took place in India, which is the Battle of Plassey. This Battle of Plassey decided the fate of the third Carnatic War. The Battle of Plassey decided the fate of the third Carnatic War. Battle of Plassey, we all know. Who? The East Indian Company fought against Siraj-ud-Dowla, the Nawab of Bengal. The East Indian Company fought against Siraj-ud-Dowla, the Nawab of Bengal. And in this Battle of Plassey, it is not a battle but a betrayal, I told you. Is it not? Because the Britishers, instead of fighting the war, they conspired, they gave money to Siraj-ud-Dowla's general, who happens to be Mir Jafar, and they what to do? They conspired to defeat Siraj-ud-Dowla. That's what it happened. So in the Battle of Plassey, which was just a battle in the name, but never was really a battle in full sense. So the Battle of Plassey, Siraj-ud-Dowla was defeated by the British East Indian Company, right? So Robert Clive was the person who was again taking part in this battle. So that also happened in this battle. Next, this Battle of Plassey gave so much money to these Britishers that the British used all the money for their future enterprise in India. What is the future enterprise? Unsolved dispute between the French in India. Unsolved dispute between the French in India. That led to the Third Carnatic War, 1757 to 63. Actually, the Third Carnatic War is a result of 7 years war in Europe. We will not go deep into that topic also. 7 years war in Europe, that is the Third Carnatic War. Right? Who are the parties here? Again, British and French. Sir, what is the result? British emerged victorious. Why? All the resources, all the moral backup, they emerged victorious, and Pondicherry was defeated and annexed. Finally, after a Treaty of Paris, which is called the Treaty of Paris, Pondicherry was given back to them. Pondicherry was given back to them, and the French accepted that they will never interfere in the affairs of the British in the future. They will not interfere in the affairs of the British in the future. Right? So that is the consequence of the Third Carnatic War. Next, Battle of Vandivash, a part of the Third Carnatic War. Yesterday, I think we asked this question while discussing. I think somewhere we discussed the Battle of Vandivash yesterday. Right? Battle of Vandivash or Vandavasi is a part of Third Carnatic War. Sir, the French ambition to rule India was defeated because this is the battle, decisive battle in which the English defeated the French. Decisive battle in which the English defeated the French. Anyhow, let it go. Next, Third Battle of Panipat. Now we all know, we have already seen two battles of Panipat. Third Battle of Panipat, the Marathas are fighting against Ahmad Shah Abdali. Abdali, I have given the full name is Ahmad Shah Abdali. The Marathas are fighting against Ahmad Shah Abdali. You understand this? Marathas, we all know. Why are they fighting? During the time of the Peshwas, the third Peshwa, Balaji Bajirao was the Peshwa here. So during the time, he agreed to protect the Mughal Empire from internal and external threats. So accordingly, the Marathas took the war supposed to be taken care by the Mughals. Mughal Emperor was ruling here. The name of the Mughal Emperor is also Ahmad Shah. Okay, the name of the Mughal Emperor is also Ahmad Shah. Instead of Ahmad Shah taking up the battle, Mughal Emperor, instead of Mughal Emperor taking the battle, the Marathas took the battle. Right? The third Peshwa, Balaji Bajirao, who was the real people who fought in the battlefield? We have what is the name of this person? Who are the two people?
Sadashivrao Bahu.
Sadashivrao Bahu and Vishwas Rao. Sadashivrao Bahu happens to be the uncle. Vishwas Rao happens to be the son. Sadashivrao Bahu is the real commander. Vishwas Rao is the nominal commander. Vishwas Rao is the son of the third Peshwa, Balaji Bajirao. Sadashivrao Bahu actually is the real commander. Who overtakes the battle? Anyhow, Ahmad Shah Abdali was well trained. His army was well equipped, well trained, war weary. So they defeated the Marathas. Moreover, Marathas were not fit for the open warfare. So they entered into open warfare with all the disadvantages. So this third battle of Panipat, I made some video and put it in the YouTube. You can search if it is available. If somebody has not removed the YouTube, the video, you can see that. Right. So third battle of Panipat, you can see that. Okay, very important. So you can see that is a very significant. Third battle of Panipat is very significant. Why? This is responsible for the British developing a political ambition in India. British developing a political ambition. Because until then, the British thought that either the Marathas are going to control India or the Mughals are going to control India. Now both these people are collapsed. Marathas are collapsed. Mughals have already been collapsed. So third battle of Panipat developed the political ambition for the British in India. Right? Another important battle, Battle of Buxar. Again, British versus all the combined forces of Bengal, Bengal and Awadh. Here, Mir Qasim was the Nawab of Bengal and Sujah-ud-Dawla. Don't confuse with Siraj-ud-Dawla. Siraj-ud-Dawla is Plassey. Siraj-ud-Dawla is Plassey. Sujah-ud-Dawla. Sujah-ud-Dawla, Nawab of Awadh. Shah Alam to Mughal Emperor was already present there. Okay, he was fearful of his ministers who is hiding in Awadh. Anyhow, whatever it is a big story. So all these three combined forces, Mir Qasim, Bengal, Sujah-ud-Dawla, Awadh, Shah Alam, Mughal Emperor, they combinedly were defeated by the British. I have marked a bold British. The British won victorious. Battle of Buxar is actually a real battle. Battle of Buxar actually proved to India that Britishers are so powerful to control the political dominations in India. So after the Battle of Buxar, in a great way, the British began to control India, mainly starting from Bengal. Okay, 1764, 1773 Regulating Act. Remember yesterday's connection. 1764. After 8 years, Regulating Act was introduced. What for? Political control of India. So they're all connected. The battles, wars, treaties, they're all connected. So that's what you have to remember. Anyhow, let it go. Next, first Anglo-Mysore War. So Mysore fought 4 wars. First, second, third, and fourth. 4 wars. First war, 67 to 69. First war. Sir, all the wars with the British versus the Mysore. Anglo means British, Mysore means Mysore. First war, British, Mysore. In the first war, Hyder Ali emerged victorious. That is the important thing. The only Indian ruler to have defeated the British. A treaty was signed which is called Treaty of Madras. In this, the war was brought by Hyder Ali to Madras itself. He wanted to annex the whole of the St. George Fort. Finally, the British accepted to a peace treaty. Right. Anyhow, let it go. This is the first Anglo-Mysore War. Second Anglo-Mysore War, 1780 to 84. Second Anglo-Mysore War, 80 to 84. The second Anglo-Mysore War, Hyder Ali died in the mid of the war. He died in the mid of the war. But his son Tipu Sultan took over. From 82 to 84, Tipu Sultan took over. 82 to 84, he took over. But the war was when no victory, no loss. No victory, no loss. So a treaty was signed which is called Treaty of Mangalore. Treaty of Mangalore was signed. Remember another battle which is called Battle of Porto Novo. Battle of Porto Novo. This battle of Porto Novo, was fought again between the East Indian Company and Hyder Ali. Porto Novo is nothing but Parangipettai. In Kadalur, there is a place which is called Parangipettai. That Parangipettai is a place which is called Porto Novo. Today also you can go to this Parangipettai. It is there. I have gone there myself to see this place. Okay. The people do not know. It is a small what to say, small village or something, Parangipetai. Okay, the people do not know. Parangi means foreigners. Parangipetai means the place where the foreigners were staying. Anyhow, let it go. So in this battle, actually, the British won against Hyder Ali. In the small battle, the British won against Hyder Ali, but the total war is no victory, no loss to both the parties. So they mutually they ended the war. Next, third Anglo War, as Mysore War, 90 to 92. After the death of Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan, he did not start the war, the British started the war. And nothing to say, in this war, Tipu Sultan was decisively defeated. They signed a treaty which is called Treaty of Srirangapattinam. In this treaty, around 50% and more territories of Tipu Sultan were taken by the British. British, before fighting a war, they brought all these people. Who are the people they brought? They brought Marathas, they brought Nizam, and they brought all the alliances possible. So the inability of Tipu Sultan to form an alliance is a very big drawback in the defeat of the war. Inability of the Tipu Sultan to form alliance, because Hyder Ali could form alliances. Hyder Ali was a big diplomat; he could form alliances, but after the death of Hyder Ali, his son could not form the alliances, led to the downfall, to the decline. So Treaty of Srirangapattinam was a big loss to the Mysore. Fourth Anglo-Mysore War, 1799, the British government directly go to Mysore, and Tipu Sultan was defeated. Tipu Sultan died in the battlefield. 1799, no treaty was signed, and immediately Mysore as totally was annexed. Mysore as a state was created and was given to the one of the descendants of the Udayar dynasty. Given to the descendant of the Udayar dynasty. That also happened. Next, we will go to the Maratha War. Again, three Maratha Wars. First, 1775 to 82. Second Maratha War, 1803 to 05. Third Anglo-Maratha War, 1818 to 1819. Remember these three wars. Okay, first 75 to 82. Second, 1803 to 05. Third, 1818, 1819. We will not go deep into this all these treaties. All the Treaty of Purandar and all. Just remember this. Treaty of Salbai is the end. 1782, there is a treaty which is called Treaty of Salbai. That ended the first Anglo-Maratha War. Remember that. Treaty of Salbai. Signed between the Marathas and the British. Again, no victory, no loss. Why the Marathas are signing? British is signing a no victory, no loss treaty, which is called Treaty of Salbai. Which year is that? 1782. Why? Because in 1782, they are fighting with Mysore, Tipu Sultan. So they cannot fight war with two fronts. So they are fighting a war. Now they are concluding a war with the Marathas, and they are continuing a war with the Mysore. After the death of Tipu Sultan, which year was that? After the death, 1799, Tipu Sultan. Okay. Just I put in the bracket died so that you will remember. Okay. Tipu Sultan died. So after the death of Tipu Sultan, you must know, now the British could fully focus on the Marathas. First war is already over. Second war, when they started, this is 1799. Immediately they started 1803. In 4 years, they started the Marathas, Second Anglo-Maratha War, and they asked the Marathas to sign something which is called the Subsidiary Alliances Treaty. Subsidiary Alliances Treaty. With the Marathas were unwilling, some of them signed, some of them did not sign. Finally, the second war also, Marathas were, what to say, not fully defeated, but the Maratha power was to some extent declined. Third Maratha War is very important. Third Maratha War, 1818, 1819. The third Maratha War. In the third Maratha War, if you see, the last Peshwa, Baji Rao II, was decisively defeated by the British. And the third Maratha War, Baji Rao II was not only defeated, he was pensioned. The whole Maratha territory was brought under by the British. Sir, in between the Marathas, we have so many groups of Marathas. Peshwas, Goldman, Holkars, Boneslays, then Shindiyas, different groups of Marathas, they interfight amongst themselves. There is a big confusion. We will not go deep into that. Totally, the Marathas were totally subdued and defeated in the third Maratha War. Right? Next, the Sikh War, Anglo-Sikh War. Two wars are there. First Anglo-Sikh War, 45-46. Second Anglo-Sikh War, 48-49. Remember the Second Anglo-Sikh War, 48-49? First Anglo-Sikh War, why? Ranjit Singh died in 1839, Ranjit Singh died. So the British government found that this is the right time to occupy this Punjab or Sikh. Here the Rani Jindal was the woman who was controlling the affairs. he had affair with something. We will not go deep. So Rani Jidan was actually controlling the power. So the British thought that it is good time to interfere into that. So the British fought a war and they signed a treaty which is called, after the conclusion of the war, they signed a treaty which is called Treaty of Lahore, in which of course the Sikhs, one part of the Sikhs accepted the defeat. Anyhow, there is a treaty which is called Treaty of Amritsar, not connected to this war, but a Treaty of Amritsar was signed between Ranjit Singh and the English. Okay, this treaty you not have to bother about that, but this is a treaty separately. What do you want me to do with this? Some coloring I will give. I don't know how to give this coloring, but anyhow, remember this. This is before all this incident. Okay, this is also important. Again, let us come to this. Remember this name of the battle, which is called Battle of Sobran. Sobran. This is a battle in which the Sikhs fought very tough. They showed their valor, but again they lost the war. Battle of Sobran is a very important war. Even the Sikhs remember that today also, because the Sikhs showed their bravery, but they lost it. That's not an important. It is in the course of the first Anglo-Sikh war. A second Anglo-Sikh war, again the Sikhs are put down, but they were not totally brought under control. So when Dalhousie came to India, we all know. So he gave a slogan: the Sikh nation asked for a war. On my words, they will have it vengeance. Like this, he gave all this dialogue. So he used war as a mechanism to annex Sikh. So Punjab was finally defeated, and totally Punjab was annexed in the year 1848, 49, during the time of which Dalhousie, right? So Dalhousie used many methods. I hope you all know, to incorporate Indian territories. He used war, he used doctrine of lapses, and he used doctrine of misgovernance. Many methods were used. So that is the point of Dalhousie also, right? Afghan War, just remember the first Anglo-Afghan War, 1839-42, second Anglo-Afghan War, 78-80. Second Anglo-Afghan War, 78-80. Right? First Anglo-Afghan War, same. British government, British army go, Afghanistan, they run away. Then the British residents were placed there. British return. Afghans rise in revolt, kill the British residents, kill all the army. So defeat for the British. Second Anglo-Afghan War, same thing. British army goes to Afghanistan, then the British army replaces the ruler there, imposes a ruler, puts a army, puts a resident there, they return back. Again the Afghans rise in revolt, kill the ruler, kill the resident, kill the army. So the same disaster repeated in both the wars, right? That's what it happened. Anglo-Afghan Wars. These two wars you remember, Anglo-Afghan Wars, right? Let it go. The last battle is called Battle of Impal. Okay, I would not call it a battle or whatever it is. So Indian National Army, which is called Azad Hindu Fauj, they wanted to enter into India. So they fought a war with the British in a place which is called Impal. So this we call it as a Battle of Impal. Battle of Impal. So these are the battles which we are supposed to cover today. Right? Some additional treaties I have given for your additional information. If you want, I can send this. Okay, I can send this. Just one treaty I will cover, which is called Treaty of Purandar. Treaty of Purandar. Just one word I will give the treaty. There are treaties which I have given. If you want, you can remember this treaty. Otherwise, you can leave this one page I have given. Just only one treaty I will speak about, which is called Treaty of Purandar, 1665. Please remember, this treaty was signed between Shivaji and the Mughals. Shivaji and the Mughals. What is the background of the treaty? Shivaji was defeated by Jai Singh. Jai Singh, one of the Mughal administrator, Mughal governor, he was defeated by Jai Singh. So after defeating Shivaji, Shivaji had no other option but to sign this Treaty of Purandar. By this Treaty of Purandar, Shivaji agreed to give around, he had around 220 forts, out of which 130 forts were also given to the Mughals. Shivaji agreed to go to Agra and pay his submission to the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. So accordingly, Shivaji went to Agra. There we all know what tamasha happened. Shivaji finally, he seems to have done some mischief. So finally he was imprisoned, so he escaped. That is an all story. So Treaty of Purandar is a treaty wherein which Shivaji accepted his defeat and signed this treaty with the Mughals. But please remember, after this treaty, Shivaji returned back from Agra. Again, he established his kingdom. Shivaji died in 1680 only. In the rest of the 14 years, Shivaji had established his whole Maratha kingdom from 1665 to next 14 years. By the time when he died in 1680, he established his whole kingdom. But you must know, by the time the Mughal also lost their hold in the Deccan region. So that's a very important part of the Treaty of Purandar. Nepal War, Sagoli, Treaty of Sagoli. Remember this, Nepal, Anglo-Nepal War. It's 1814 to 1816. Treaty of Sagoli is the treaty which is concluded after the war. By this treaty, so many territories we took from the British. I have not given in this. so many territories. Trans-Himalayas, not Trans-Himalayas, the foothills of the Himalayas, which is called a Tarai region, was taken from the treaty only, by the treaty only. Then we have all the hill stations, Darjeeling, Ranikhet, Mussoorie, Lansdowne, all hill stations. Darjeeling, Mussoorie, Ranikhet, Lansdowne, all these were taken by this treaty only. They were taken by this treaty, right? So this is what we decided to do today.